Okay, my dear.
No sound.
Namaste, everyone. Very warm welcome to Satsang today. Sadhguru Shri Muji Ji ki Jai, Ananta Ji ki Jai, Sangha ki Jai. So the Hangout link is present also on the description part of the YouTube video. So if you'd like to join the Hangout directly, you're welcome to do that as well. Namaste, Bhagavati Ji. Thank you for posting on the Sangha of Being page. I was unable to open that page for some reason, so okay. Okay. So it's all set up and well, it seems like. So I want to start things off by talking about a contemplation that arose here just recently. And I've heard Mudiji say, for example, that love makes truth come alive. He said this, and he's also said that you can put together all the scholars in the world, you cannot find me, but if you love me, I'm yours. So I was contemplating on this, and I realized that this very statement has sounded true to me in many different ways through my journey. It sounded quite different through the journey in many different ways. And I was wondering that anyone who hears this will hear it in the way that that is in accordance with their own satsang, so to say, in accordance with their own seeing, in accordance with their own maturity. So I was wondering that every time I have felt something, a resonance in my heart towards a certain quote, towards a certain teaching, towards a certain pointing, I've heard this and I've seen it in a certain way where it seems complete, where it seems that this pointing cannot be seen in any other way. So it occurred to me that when it seems to you that way, when it seems to you in a certain way, that it's not possible for us to see it in any other way. One, because we are convinced that the way we see it is the only way that there is. I mean, even if we are not saying it, sometimes we just feel like it's true, what we feel is true. Ultimately, it doesn't matter because we're speaking about the resonance of the pointings of the teachings of the heart. So there was a time when I remember I was reading J. Krishnamurti's teachings, and as I read this, Nitya has joined the Hangout as well. As I read this, I remember I felt at the time that I had quite a good grasp of his teachings. And I felt, good about myself at the time that I felt like this. And then a few days later, I was listening to Adi Shanti. Namaste, Ashwini. I was listening to Adi Shanti. And he said, never ever say that you understood a teaching fully. If the teaching is genuine, it has infinite depths. Actually, what I realized later was even if the teaching is not genuine, anything has genuine depths, infinite depths. There are many different ways in which very seeming mundane events that have taken place in our life has been seen in very, very deep ways. Nitya says she doesn't have sound here. She has to join from YouTube. Can you hear me now, my dear? Is it okay? Oh, okay. That's fine. She can join from YouTube. So, where was I? I was just contemplating in general the infinite depths that there are to any teaching as such. Any even seeming mundane event. Sound is good on YouTube. That's okay. So even seeming mundane events are seen with so much wisdom and so much light. And I was also wondering if it's possible for us, wherever we are on our journey, to say that anything that we've heard is provisionally how it sounds to us at this moment. Because irrespective of our state of being, we can say that there are some things that we are bound to see in a certain way. Okay, the sound is okay for Nitya here on YouTube. Okay. So in my own experience, I've seen that a lot of these things that I've heard at different points in time sound like they have different depths as my own satsang seems to get deeper. And so I was contemplating this thing of love. He was saying love makes truth come alive. And I was contemplating this thing, then I saw that, we've heard even things like said that, in love there is no two. We've heard this. We've heard things like this. Yet, a lot of us, when we come to satsang, in my own experience, I've done this as well for a very long time and very rigidly as well, that a seeming sense that, I am awareness, I'm already perfect, and the rest of the world is here, it's functioning the way it's functioning. And, there is a seeming, there's a seeming distance that is there. We say also things like, for instance, I shouldn't be a certain way, for instance. We say these things in relation to some identities that we may have. For instance, we are not okay being a spiritual failure. We are not okay, for example, sounding arrogant in someone else's eyes. And this is where I've seen that, it's the way in which Father has gone to the depths of the very simple pointing, let go of your next thought. His pointing is very simple, which is let go of your next thought, but he's covered this in great detail. And this is where I also felt that the Sangha, when we're together, when we're sharing our experiences, it's immensely useful, because the way someone might see let go of your next thought might be completely different from the way someone else might see it. And in the way in which someone else might see it might completely open things up for me. And I was wondering always, no matter what our state is, if we could be open to the possibility that there is more depth to be revealed in whatever we've understood, in whatever teaching that we've come across, or whatever insights that have taken place here. Basically, that can we never draw conclusions about our state? Can we never jump to a conclusion of saying, I have reached, I have not reached? Things like this, for instance. So there's very much, this is very much an open interaction, and I'm only speaking from my experience. So I'd very much love to hear anyone else say what is seeming true in their experience, what is happening in their experience, and we can all bring it together and sort of talk about it together. It need not be a monologue as such. So please feel free to interrupt me, type in the chat at any point in time, whatever you feel is relevant to the discussion we're having here, or even otherwise, just the sharing is fine. So on these same lines, I was contemplating what is it that sometimes make us not open to knowing ourselves in a much deeper and in a much more profound way. In my own experience, what has happened is that the seeker identity, for instance, is always interested in being the finder. These two things go together. And when it's pointed out to the seeker that what you know may not actually be completely um, full, so to say, it's not complete, so to say, the seeker doesn't like hearing it. And always is always trying to avoid hearing that there could be something more that could be understood in a much more deeper way. So essentially, instead of trying to work at the goal, we can try to work on the obstacles, because the seeming obstacle are these identities, and instead of trying to get somewhere, we can just work on these identities as such. So we've seen over the lot of satsangs that we've had on Ustream as well as now on YouTube. Father has spoken about the application of let go of your next thought. Initially, this caused confusion regarding attention, for instance. People thought it was don't attend to your next thought. But soon we discovered that that was not what he was referring to, but he was saying let go of your next thought. And then as we do this, a lot of the mental noise goes away, but yet some of the heavier concept remains. And also sometimes it's added, some of the new concepts are added, which is the interpretation of the teaching. Sometimes we see that, we say that I should be able to let go of all thoughts in this moment. But that also Father has clarified, for instance, by saying that the let go of your next thought is only for this moment. And even if we get caught in the thought, we come back in this now, we just see if there is any attachment to the thought. So in this way, the element of guilt has gone away. The element of guilt, the element of post-mortem in a way has gone away, so to say. So for a long time here as well, this seeker identity was very largely functional. I don't know if it's even functional now, but it was functional in a very obvious way then. I can say it like this for now. And as I saw that, it seemed like this was the obstacle. It seemed like to look into truth, to explore into truth more deeply. And I realized that, even great masters, even Father himself also, is always contemplating things. I've seen that, whenever we take an issue to him, he's always, seeing that, if there is something that he could bring to it, if there's something that he could see more clearly in a way. And I've seen even teachers such as Mujiji, Adishanti often contemplate. And this contemplation in a way is not because, that we are working from a sense of incompleteness, but this is because it's our joy to contemplate. It's a joy for truth to discover newer things that it didn't know about itself, so to say. So without any resistance, when there's none of these resistances, and we're not taking any of these resistance to be real, we have the freedom to completely explore. In a way, we have the freedom to look in a way that our previous identity wouldn't have allowed. Often we're not able to explore because we feel like if I were to find something more, then the state that I was in would not be valid, so to say. And I remember one of the first teachers that I came across, he said that life is a movement from perfection to perfection, from completeness to completeness. And Something the way he said it deeply resonated in my heart, but I couldn't quite understand what he meant at the time. Um, any if you have anything to say, anything to share? So one of the things that I also want to share was being able to accept ourselves for the way that we are, in a way. And I've seen that, all of us have a unique expression, um, which is maybe yet to flower, but there is a unique expression in us. All of our minds are unique. The way in which thoughts, in a way, can sometimes get us is unique. We all have our own buttons that can be pressed. And I saw that, for a long time, um, I have a very active mind, I must say. It's always looking, it's always going somewhere, it's always up to something. And I used to always feel that this was a disadvantage in finding the truth. I used to feel that, I have a very busy mind, and, a busy mind can be a distraction for finding and embodying the truth. And, recently I saw that actually once this is accepted of me, this is the way my mind is. And there's nothing incorrect or correct about it. It is just the way it is. Um, Once I was able to accept it, I saw that because it's always running, because it's always moving about, it can look at things with depth that normally wouldn't be accessible otherwise. So, what I'm trying to hint at is that what seems to us as imperfections at a certain point may not really be our imperfections, may actually be our greatest strength, may be our greatest ally that we are yet to unleash. And we are yet to unleash because we are holding ourselves back, thinking that something is a disadvantage when it may not really be. And of course, there was a time when I had to stop completely using this. I had to completely say, no, I'm completely going to stop. I'm not going to touch anything here. So, that phase was very useful as well. But I also see that now that I can embrace it, it works with much more clarity, it works with much more depth. And although there are tendencies, where I can dig my own well at times, it's still okay, where you cannot be lost. There's no harm in seemingly getting lost, so to say. So I remember there's one video of Mujiji where he says, can we be in our universality? Can we be in our universal hearing? Can we be in our universal seeing? And I often wondered, when I first saw the title of that video, I thought, oh, what does that even mean? Like, how can you be in your universal hearing? Hearing is just hearing. So, now I'm contemplating this, and it seems like there is a way in which we can just be open, just be open in the way in which we treat our own insights. We treat our own, the techniques that we've come across, the teachings that we've come across. And we've all heard things like, don't treat the finger pointing to be the moon, for example, the Zen saying. And what is meant by that is not to take the teaching seriously, but is to take it completely seriously, yet be open to the fact that this very teaching can have infinite depths. It can reveal to us things that we may not be completely seeing in this moment. And, although it may seem that, this is a never ending thing, and, from one perspective, it may seem like, wow, I have to keep going. In another perspective, it seems like it's a complete joy. because then from this perspective, it can be seen that the truth is ever fresh. It's always revealing itself to itself in greater detail, in greater depth, greater understanding, and greater texture. And each time something is revealed that seemingly lessens the burden even more, it becomes such a lightness. It's so great. And I feel like this is one of the privileges of being a human being, or being alive. Also being human, because we have so many complexities, so to say, in our mind, that for a long time we try to conquer it, we try to overcome it, instead of just embracing it as ourselves and letting it be sanctified by the light of the truth. Ashmi says, so beautiful, Om. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you, my dear. My joy. I'd be very happy to hear any of you share anything that you feel is relevant for this as well. Seems like my YouTube is frozen. So the other thing that I was looking at was how love sanctifies everything that it comes across. It doesn't matter how seemingly ugly something might seem, but it is the love that we have. It is the presence that is here that kind of sanctifies it. The truth that is here that sanctifies everything. And even a seemingly difficult mind can be sanctified completely by this truth. And this seeming difficult mind can use itself, the truth can use this to shed light on things which would never be seen otherwise. It would have never been seen. So I remember someone like Adi Shanti, for instance. He was such a marathon seeker in a way, if we listen to his story. And he says, his path was the path of failures. He said he failed again and again and again. And as time has gone on, the depth that he's bringing to his teaching, the clarity, the, the rich texture that is there is so vibrant. And you can think that maybe when he was seeking, he would have felt that he has such a difficult mind, he has such a strong seeking tendency, but that very thing in itself now is being used by truth to liberate other beings, so to say. So it's I'd say that as soon as we can embrace our own imperfections, it begins to serve us. We also hear things like the mind becomes our own servant, so to say. And namaste, Ram. Ram is here as well. So it is the light of the truth itself which uses this to communicate itself in ways that have never been communicated before. And that's why each expression of truth, each master brings so much depth and clarity in us. And sometimes a lot of these teachings are complementary as well, and we ourselves figure it out. Through our own intuitive guidance, we intuitively know when is the right thing to, when is the right thing to read, when is the right thing to hear, when is the right thing to explore something. And it's such a beautiful thing, and it's such a continuous joy as well. So, Rambro, I was just sharing that this doesn't have to be a monologue, and if any of you feel like there's anything that you can share which is very relevant for this conversation, or even otherwise generally, please feel free to do so, and we'll all learn something from it. So one of the contemplations also that I've had in the recent past is this one of what do we don't want to happen? What is it that we deeply say shouldn't be happening? What is it that we say that, I wouldn't want to be? For example, I can only see this in retrospect now with some of the things that were present then, is that I would say, for instance, that I wouldn't, like I wouldn't want to be a spiritual failure, for instance, I would feel like, if something came to me, which proved that, maybe I wasn't so spiritually evolved after all, it would, deeply hurt me, so to say. And we can, instead of getting into the depth of the content of it, we can instead look at what is acting as a Velcro for us, which is enabling some of these thoughts to be present. And like one of the other contemplations that I combined with this was, so what? So what? So what's the problem now? So what's the problem now? Um, Claire is joining in as well. Namaste, Claire, my dear. So happy to have you here.
So nice to see you. I just put the Facebook on by chance, and I saw that you were on.
I'm sorry, that was not very clear.
Okay. I just put the I just went on. I've just turned the computer back on and went onto Facebook, and I noticed that you were recording, so I just come back chance.
Oh, so great, so great. So I was just sharing with everyone who's also joined in from the YouTube that if there is something that you feel is relevant that you want to add to the conversation, please feel free to unmute yourself and just start talking. Don't mind being interrupted. There's no such thing, just we can all learn from each other here.
Okay, I'll unmute it for a minute. I'll mute it.
So as I was saying, I combined this contemplation with, so what's the problem now? So what's the problem now? And I kept pushing this thing, So I said, so if I am a spiritual failure, what's the problem now? Then it seemed like, I'd be unworthy. It felt like I'd be unworthy. So then I said, what's the problem now if I'm unworthy? It eventually boiled down to a statement, something like, I'm unworthy of being loved. I'd be alone. No one would respect me, and things like this. So even then, when I ask what's the problem now, it seems like actually after that there's no problem. So at the seeming depth of these, stacks of, thoughts, there is one Velcro, which is almost, very primal instinct. And I also covered in my previous broadcast that the mind is like a child, it's also trying to get us things, but it's just getting us in totally incorrect ways, and getting us in ways through wrong assumptions. It's just like if the father took, career advice from his child, from his infant child, asking, what do you think I should do about my career? The child will say what it says with love, but it might not be technically sound advice. So the mind is a bit like this, and at the root of it, it says something like, I need to be loved. And we can just deeply inquire into this and see that is there not love here already? And am I not already sufficiently loved? And looking at it this way, it will seem that, some of these thoughts are very innocent and very sneaky, but yes, also very innocent. Just trying to do something good for us, but, unable to do so because of its own inherent limitation. So when some of these resistances are allowed to go, or we don't rest ourselves on these resistances, we allow ourselves to go deeper into these stack of thoughts, and we are able to see more clearly what is the root of a lot of our problems. What is the root problem of any identity? I remember there was a time also when I heard the teaching, let go of your next thought. I would almost let go of some things because of fear. And, I'd become so good at letting go of my next thought, that I wouldn't even look at anything more deeply than that. I would just not even contemplate some of the things deeply, because I was scared that if it were to prove something that I held deeply, it would just, it would shatter me, so to say. But I would let go of that too, and I'd become good at it in a way, so that I don't see things in depth. And one thing that began to happen here is also that I started to ask these questions, that what is my biggest problem in this moment? What do I feel like is a problem? And it did not be just this moment, it could be this cluster of time, if we can call it that way. And we can just say, what is it that I deeply fear? What is it that I don't want to happen? And we see that, as we begin to traverse through these stack of thoughts, one after the other, there will be some seeming energetic resistances which are accompanied by some stronger thoughts that I shouldn't be feeling this way. And if we persist, we get to the bottom of this very, very soon. And from there, letting go of your next thought is just, it completely clears everything up. And I also had some of these beliefs that, I had a belief that I shouldn't be believing a thought. And I had brought this to satsang as well with Father once, and he said, isn't that a thought as well? He pointed out that isn't that a thought as well. And with that pointing also, something became clear that beliefs are going to happen, and it's just that in this moment, we just sweep everything aside and come to the temple, come to the temple. Nitya is joining as well. I hope her sound is okay now. Is it okay now? Claire says sound is very good here. Thank you, dear. I don't think like Nitya can hear what is being said, maybe. No. Just one of those days. Rashmi says, shouldn't be believing the thought is what is going on here. Too much vigilance. Yeah. It can happen sometimes that, this is the reason I said, that when we get together as a Sangha, we are bound to interpret the teaching in a way which is natural to us. And which is natural to the state in which that we are in at that point. So if we were to share how we are hearing something, a lot of the misconceptions would come, and it would just get burnt out in a way. And also we've learned some very beautiful things about how different beings are approaching this teaching, and also it can be very, very useful for us to know as well that some things in their own process. So one of the other things as well is at the root of all of this is again surrender. It seems like there's a strong sense of control. There's a strong sense of illusion of control that a lot of us have, is that we feel like at some level I can control my human life. I can do something about my human life, whether it be not believing, whether it be not getting deluded, whether it be not suffering. We feel like there's something that I can do to prevent any of these things from happening. But the more I'm seeing is that it is a part of the human package. Some of these things, it's not wrong. It's just the way it is. It's just the life of contrast. And this realm of duality, as Mujiji says, is full of inter opposites. It's always, there's joy, there is no joy, there's peace, there's no peace, there's suffering, then there is rest. There's all of these seeming movements, and it seems like we'll never reach a point where consciousness is going to go into some sort of complete protected state where nothing is going to happen in a way. And in this realm, things are going to keep happening, and it's just the meaning that we're giving to it that will define our experience, so to say. So I've been saying, we can share, and I've been going on and on about some of these things. So also regarding what Rashmi said, shouldn't be believing a thought. At one level we can just simply let it go. At another level we can also contemplate it deeply, as in why shouldn't I be believing a thought, for instance. Of course, this is where I said, there's a moment of truth. The truth wanted to experience itself in its pristineness, and that's the reason it took hold of this pointing, let go of your next thought. It was not because of the reasons that the mind gives, in a way. So we can also, as we begin to be more contemplative and be more quiet with these things, we are more open to discovering the movement of truth, how truth is moving in itself. And we see that, truth moves out of joy. Truth, and in fact, it's only truth that is moving all the time. It's just that if we were to interpret that movement and believe our interpretation of it, it can seem like, there's suffering, or, there's confusion, there's lack of clarity and things like that. So as we become quieter, we see that we are interested in this path. We wanted to be free of suffering because that's the way truth wanted it, not because it despised suffering. The truth sees even the divine in suffering. That's why it let itself suffer in the first place. So there's nothing wrong in any of these things that we've experienced in our path, or any of the other beings experienced. A lot of the times what happens is, when we hear some of these teachings, we interpret it in a very dualistic sense. We say that, there's suffering, there's no suffering. And, when I'm in a state of no suffering, I'm there, something like this. And we often make the suffering to be a bad guy. And Father has said this again and again, that suffering is pure grace. It allows us to see things that we wouldn't see otherwise. And also, from another perspective, that, as I said just before, that the truth is allowing itself to experience this, so that it can experience the contrast of overcoming this. And it wouldn't, if something wasn't auspicious, it wouldn't have happened. Everything that's happening is completely auspicious. And if this is God's playground, and everything that there is God, then how can something that happened be inauspicious? And this is the power of Sangha. I feel very grateful to Father that, for example, I get to speak to some of these other beings. I get to see their broadcasts. I see what they feel about certain things. I see them talking about their own experience. And I must say that sometimes, speaking about these things, being in the fire of the truth, speaking to many different beings within the Sangha about this itself, a lot of things can take place. A lot of changes can take place that probably, is facilitated by the satsang that we are in a way. So it's a complete joy. It's a complete joy in exploring into the ever-present subject, into the ever-present, ever-complete, yet ever-explorative subject of truth. Claire, you want to say something? So can we just invite ourselves to sit in the fire of that which we are resisting? If we say that a certain sensation shouldn't be present, can we sit in the fire of it ourselves? Of course, we have the resource of the satsang. That something is too strong, we can always bring it we can always take it to Father, and he'll work through that with us in a way. So can we be okay? And turns out, a lot of the times we are okay with some of these things that we resist. It's just some ideas that we've picked up along the way, and we're just listening to the child about what the father should do in a way. So if we just sit in this fire, we realize that actually, since coming to satsang, and at this moment, it's beautiful. It's completely beautiful. For a lot of us, some changes have taken place which are immense, which many beings even now don't have the access to, and a little bit of suffering here and there, and we have the resources to bear it in a way. And if it's not for the idea that I shouldn't be having even this, I shouldn't be experiencing even this, and even this idea is fine. Even this idea is in a way looking out for you. It's looking out for us. This idea is just trying to say that I'm looking out for you, but it's just it's the wrong advisor. It's the wrong advisor. So if we were to just sit in the fire of what we are resisting, a lot of these things will, and this is a part of the universal hearing, that the way I see it in a way is that we just sit in our own medicine. We sit in our own presence, and we just marinate in this presence. And through this marination, whatever is coming is revealed in full depth, in full clarity. And it has to be this way because the mind is an aspect of this one, so it cannot overpower this one. Yet at the same time, because one cannot overpower other as well. The presence cannot overcome the mind in that sense either. And we sometimes mistake this to be that this is a battle of the mind versus the presence, and we think that there will be a point where I'll completely overcome the mind, and the mind borrows its intelligence from you, and you are infinitely intelligent. So if you are infinitely intelligent, even the mind is just as intelligent, and it's very, 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 very subtle and very intricate. It's not meant to be cracked. It's just meant to be embraced. It's just meant to be loved. It's just meant to be seen for what it is. It's just begging. It's just begging to be embraced through understanding, through compassion, in a way. And if you have something to share on YouTube. Just to take the example of what Rashmi was sharing just now, that there's a thought that I shouldn't be believing a thought, and at the same time, I should be believing a thought is another thought, and we see that all these thoughts, they just come, they just come from somewhere. It says I shouldn't be feeling this way, and I should be okay with feeling this way. It's like, for example, I have pain, and it says I shouldn't be feeling this pain. At the same time, there's a feeling also that I should be okay with this pain. And it's like, it's again the same child. It's the same child trying to look out for what's good for you. And here is where we can become sensitive. If any thought is in a way, at least aligned with the truth in a way, it can never completely be aligned because it's just a thought. And the moment of truth is unexplained and completely mysterious in a way. But we can see if there are things which are more in harmony with the truth than otherwise. And as we are harmony with the truth, we are in harmony with the truth. We suffer less. We are more joyous, you're more open, and we are open to even more exploration in a way. So quite simply, what is making us defend our spiritual understanding, or our material understanding, or our intellectual understanding? What is making us believe that this that I know seems to be it? This that I know is correct? What is making us feel this way? Instead of trying to deal with a thought, we deal with a Velcro for this thought. Because ultimately, the whole power lies with us. These thoughts are just passing thoughts, and we've seen now in satsang after a while that a lot of these thoughts are, they're just passing, But there are some thoughts that just stick. That is always because there's an identity here. There's basically at the root of it, there's a sense of control, and this control can attract to itself a lot of ideas, which can form an identity then. So we can just quietly look in and quietly listen and be open, and we can see a lot of these things quite clearly, and yet we can see it even more clearly, and that's the paradox of the truth. Ever being, ever becoming. Adi Shanti says this. There's this quote that I just came across, which I feel I can share here now. So let's see this just now. So it's a quote from Adi Shanti again. He says, "Our natural state is a beautiful paradox. While going nowhere and accomplishing nothing, we are also living in a state of constant discovery and constant expression, always being and always becoming. This is the moment of that which is eternally still." I have to also maybe clarify a few things in this regard. The first time I came across Adi Shanti's teachings, there was great confusion here, because a lot of the things that he said, the way I interpreted it was, I need to do something about all of this, and I need to do something about all of this, and I would try to, in a way, manage my own satsang, manage my own awakening, and this was a cause of great suffering in a way, and this was the root of the spiritual identity in a way. But yet at the same time, the contemplation and the exploration can come from a place of joy. We explore because we have the capacity to explore, because it's our joy to explore, because we can explore. And it's just simply the way the truth is moving. It just wants to know more about itself. Always. And it's always, it never stops, it seems like. I've never heard a teacher say that, that's it, that's it. He may have said that's it in the sense of, the whole turmoil of the mind, he may say that's it to that. But even there, a lot of the masters say that, I can only speak about the now. And I can only speak about lesser instances being of suffering. But I can only speak about the now. I don't know about the next moment. I don't know about tomorrow. Something may come which can deeply grasp us. And I feel like, some of these things that seemingly grasp us have an inherent quality of intelligence in them. They are driving us to look beyond itself in a way. I was just looking at this article, this article where this guy is in a coma, and he, I think Shivani had posted this. I was just reading this article, and it seemed like this boy went into a coma, and after a few years he woke up, but his body hadn't woken up. So for him internally in the body, he was completely experiencing being alive, but his body wasn't moving. For people outside, it looked like he was still in a coma. And he realized after a while that he was trapped, and he was trapped with very negative thoughts, and he had no resources. You see, he had no capacity to go and ask for help. There was no means for him, and yet he started to see these thoughts as just thoughts. And it was very beautiful, that story. I thought, even in seeming places where you're completely abandoned, you are still the light of the universe. You're still operating from a place of divine intelligence. So if a being who's in that state is not beyond help, then definitely we are always taken care of. We are always taken care of. I feel like the tank here is empty now. Uh, Anyone else have anything to say? Claire, my dear, you coming to Rishikesh? Are you coming to Rishikesh?
No, I don't. I don't think I'll be coming to Rishikesh.
Yeah, my dear. Okay.
Um,
It would have been so nice to see you again.
yeah, maybe I will. I don't know.
You never know.
You never know.
Do you want to say something?
No, I don't think so. Well, maybe I can. I can say that my experience is that um, that the silence of the self isn't involved at all in any thoughts or any story or any
Yes.
and any reflection either.
Say that again. Sorry, the last bit.
Or any reflection or reflecting.
It's unaffected, you mean?
No, it's not. It's not. It's not involved in reflecting even or
Yes.
wondering or pondering or thinking about that.
So you say that you feel in your experience there is the silence of the self, which is not at all involved in any movement in a way.
It's not. It's not interested in any thoughts at all. It's not.
It's not interested in thoughts at all, you say?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not.
So you're saying it's completely free of that movement in a way?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It seems like when I've observed, it seems like it is not involved in it, yet it's not involved in it. Does that make sense? It's like it's not apart from it. That's what I mean to say. It's not a part of it. Yes, it's not apart from it.
Hmm. I'm not sure. I think it's not. It's not. It's not at all bothered by it. Like all the you know, the reflections, the everything. It's not. It's not against any of it. It's not opposed to anything.
It's neither for nor against. Yes, that's correct. Yes.
It's not interested in it. It's not interested in it.
Yes. It's not interested in it. Yes.
Because it's so complete in its own. It's just so complete. It's doesn't need interest in anything. Something like that.
That's true. Mm-hmm. So Bhagavati ji says, there was a period of time in my life where not in coma, there was an experience of being trapped in the body due to illness that caused me to be unable to stand, walk, sit, etc. It brought awareness into play clearly. There was nowhere else to go to be. Yes, it's very beautiful, isn't it? Some of these experiences are so strong that they just push you to accept something that we maybe haven't accepted, or you know, it can be a beautiful teacher in a way. I remember even Mujiji saying that, you know, sickness is a very beautiful teacher. So it can play out this way sometimes. Rashmi says, Ram says, YouTube not working, unable to comment. Enjoyed listening to home and other beloved. So much love, Ram. Bhagavati ji says, that's when I discovered mindfulness, went deeper into meditation 15 years ago. It was the path that led me ultimately to inquiry and finally to Moji and Father. Yes. You know, it's wonderful what some of these things can do, you know. It can seem like a curse when it comes, but it can just shove us back into ourselves in so profound ways that we couldn't, do, or some gentleness wouldn't have worked, I guess. I don't know. And ultimately, it's we as consciousness that are choosing this, you know. Okay, if Bhagavati ji says that discovery, that awareness was present besides body mind, one's witness, sickness is a trauma for many. For this one, it's been a lifetime's teacher, my guru. It's very beautiful, very beautiful. It's so beautiful you're able to say it this way. And I know she still has some issues with the body, I think, and in the midst of that, she can embrace it for what it is. You know, there are like I like what Baron Katie says. She says there are infinite ways of looking at something, but all of it is incorrect. So, but some are in harmony with the truth, so to say, because some don't oppose what is happening. If you're having sickness, some thoughts say I shouldn't be having sickness. Some see the blessing in it. So ultimately we can let everything go. But it seems like some help us see the light in it. Okay, my dears, it's 1 hour since I started. We can move on to the next broadcast. Thank you so much for joining. Sadhguru Shri Muji Ji ki Jai. Ananta Ji ki Jai. Sangha ki Jai. Namaskar. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Claire, for coming. Thank you, Bhagavat, Rashmi, Ram, and whoever else was quietly watching. Bhagavati Ji says, love that Baron Katie quote. Yes, it's very beautiful, isn't it? right, my dears. I'm going to disconnect now.
Mm.
Thank you. Bye. Bhagavati ji says it's all in how we perceive it all. Absolutely. Ultimately, what is just happening. It's not giving any explanations. But if there were explanations, we can say it's all grace, or things like this, which are more in harmony with the truth. Thank you, my dear. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Nitya.